at this point, he doesn't have like an emotional awakening of like, we should probably not be murdering all those people. He's like, this is wildly inefficient and it needs to be better.
Hello, welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Ryan. I've been playing TTRPGs for over 10 years. I am currently GMing a Pathfinder campaign, and I'm playing in a Starfinder campaign.
And hey, I'm Tyler. I've been playing TTRPGs for over 10 years as well. I'm currently playing in 2 Pathfinder campaigns, and I'm a GM for a 3rd.
Yeah. So last time, Tyler, we talked about Taldor.
Yes.
And before we kind of go into our next topic, I do want to first talk about our favorite topic, our favorite segment, things that we mispronounced.
Yes.
So last time we were talking about the Taldan city, province, settlement, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
The one in Tianjia. It is called and pronounced Amanandar. I think we said it was Amanandar.
I think we added a couple. I think we said Amandandar. I don't know.
It's a tough one. So Amanandar.
Yes. We missed several of the A's. We had an extra D. It was a whole thing.
We made it work.
Yeah.
And that was it, right?
Yeah.
As far as we know, we only mispronounced one big long name. So
I think that's it. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Cool.
As far as I'm concerned, that was pretty solid.
Yeah.
So all that being said then, when we talked about Taldor, we talked about how Taldor kind of fell apart at the end and turned into a whole bunch of different countries. So what do you have for us today? Because I think it's going to be one of those countries.
Yeah, that's a great point. The topic we're going to be talking about today is the country of Galt. We talked actually a little bit about Galt in the first episode. It was kind of one of the little teasers of our charcuterie board.
Right, the poorly set up metaphor of the charcuterie board, yes.
Always great. So Galt was explored, in our quote-unquote explored by Taldor all the way back in 37 AR.
So we're way back.
Yeah, so this is, well over 4,700 years ago.
Yes.
This is almost 5,000 years ago that Galt first got explored.
Yes.
And honestly, not much was really written about Galt before its bloodier times. So while it was a province of Taldor, there's only a couple paragraphs of description of it, but it kind of seemed like a Renaissance area. It, had some brilliant artists, some romantic brigands, some philosophers. It seemed like before it became what it is today, it was kind of the, place to be for modern political discourse. Which, I don't know if that's foreshadowing, maybe a little bit of irony looking back.
Right, but it's not such a bad place so far.
Yeah. So up until about 4,000 AR, that's all we get.
Okay.
So this is one of those things that I think Paizo could definitely go back and, flesh out more if they wanted to.
Sure.
I don't know if they will. I don't know if it necessarily matters. But for about 4,000 years, it's relatively quiet.
Okay.
The next big event is one you talked about in the last Taldor episode. Cheliax during the Even-Tongued Conquest.
Yes.
So this was 4081 AR. And so like you said, King Aspects, the Even-Tongued, which we talked about, revolted and seceded from Taldor while Taldor was fighting with Kadira.
Didn't even have to pull a sword.
Yeah, didn't even have to pull a sword. Basically, on threat of force, King Aspects annexed Galt and Isker.
And so he annexed it. So they don't leave. He just says, these are mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I think when we said he kind of led them to also declare independence, actually he just kind of took them over.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of became provinces. And so they didn't really put up a fight. He also convinced Andoran to go with him. So Cheliax, kind of just for the people of Galt, the Galtans, the change in management didn't actually affect that much of their society.
So they're probably reading the newspaper like, oh, I guess we're Chelaxian now.
Yeah. It's like new management. They didn't really change anything. They continued to draw free thinkers and idealists at universities. It still had, in the woods, it still had brigands and rapscallions.
Sure.
Very, very poetic and kind of, I wouldn't say idyllic, but a good place to be.
Yeah.
A nice place to, if you're interested in market of free ideas.
Sure.
Galt's
Everywhere's got a little, nowhere's perfect, but probably pretty reasonable.
Yeah. One aside, which, as I was reading this, kind of found interesting, is that I never realized that Chiliax was not always a fascist dictatorship.
Well, yeah, they certainly have that place in the current lore of the big bad evil empire, but sure, they weren't always the big bad evil empire.
Yeah, for me it was kind of cool to learn that, obviously, as long as Pathfinder, the role-playing game, anytime you're playing in the current timeline, no matter when it is, it's Chelaxians, a bunch of devil worshippers.
Right.
But the fact that they weren't for a long time is actually kind of interesting, and I think I said in the first episode that, like, oh yeah, they went from bad to worse under the new management, but they actually went from pretty fine to very bad.
That makes it way sadder now that I know that.
yeah, it's kind of worse. So anyway, that was a quick aside. I think, as we continue with the series, there's definitely going to be things that we talk about, that we have our kind of preconceived gamer notions, but obviously there are cool things in the history that we learn, and we hope you'll come along with us as we learn. Anyway, I digress. So, for 600 years, so we're about 4,600, everything is pretty chill. Galt's just, Galt's doing its Galt things, Chiliax doing its Chiliax things. Chiliax was kind of doing its Taldor things.
Right.
They decided they wanted to, extend its territory and do all whatever. They took a stab at Belkson. They wanted to fight those orcs. They also lost.
Of course.
Of course. Everyone is realizing that the wall of orcs up in the north is not a good place to be.
At least they're consistent.
Yeah. Again, for Galt, they don't care. They're doing their thing, right? They're just a province, whatever. We don't really want to go too much into the detail of what Cheliax is doing. We'll get to that in the Cheliax episode. But one of the biggest kind of sparks that ignites what Galt will become happens as a direct result of an event in Cheliax. In 4600 AR, our friend of the pod, Aridin.
Friend of the pod.
Who died. And apparently...
Rest in peace,
R.I.P. Aridin. And, affected Taldor. While they were on their exploration, it also affected Cheliax, because in Cheliax's mind, they thought they were the ones to inherit Aridin's, Age of Glory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So apparently everybody in Avastan's just like, cool, Aridin's going to protect me in particular for whatever reason. Obviously, that didn't happen. And when Aridin died, Cheliax just kind of fell into a civil war. They had their, they thought, just like Taldor, they had God at their back.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
And so when that happened, they're just like, crap, I'm the leader now. And then everyone's like, I'm the leader now. So it turns into a pretty bloody and fractious civil war that lasted for 3 decades. Brother turned against brother. Leaders would attempt to rise to power with promises of security, only to get murdered by other leaders. It was ravaged by disease because, chaos, people aren't...
I feel like I've heard this story once before.
Yeah, it's we're seeing a lot of parallels. When an empire gets a little bit... When an empire's entire country mandate is based on a god who currently dies, things tend to go bad.
Okay, yep.
So after decades, people are getting desperate. Nothing's happening. The Civil War, no one's gaining power. No one's kind of risen above it.
It's kind of anarchy.
Yeah. So... there's a noble house called House Thrune, and who is led by Abigail Thrune. She decided, you know what? The best way to end this is to sign a pact with Hell to end the fighting.
Sure.
Which worked. They sign a pact that they would be under Hell's leadership, and Hell was like, cool, yeah, we'll take your souls. Here, have some devils as your army, and have some devils as your advisors. So with that extra power, they were able to just kind of rise into control.
Yeah, I mean, you look to your right, like, I don't really like that person. Look to my left, I don't really like that person. If only there was someone I really did like. Looks down below your feet.
Right? Yeah. So House Thrune just comes charging out of nowhere with all its devils, takes control over Cheliax, kind of turns it into what it will end up being in modern day, which is a empire that's ruled by a group of people that are ruled by a bunch of devils.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
The Civil War ended in 4640, so again, about 30 years.
4640, okay.
And for about 20-ish years, give or take, things kind of simmered and got bad.
Right.
At this point, you had provinces in Isker and Galt and Andoran, and people realized, I don't really want to be ruled by a bunch of blasphemous devil worshippers.
Literal devils.
Yeah. And things got really bad when Cheliax decided, hey, our state religion is now diabolism.
Ah.
Yes. And our patron deity is Asmodeus.
Okay, and so for those people who don't know who Asmodeus is, he is the...
I mean, he's a lawful evil devil.
He's in charge of hell, right?
Yeah. Yep. Charge of hell. So, not great when they're going around, I mean, like, all the provinces, here's our deity now. And everyone's like, I'm sorry, what now?
Feels like that would be a bit of an issue for many people.
Yeah. When Cheliax was like, we demand, renewed fealty from all the provinces, and we demand those people also worship our leaders, which is Asmodeus and devils. Again, people got kind of pissed. Galt, free market of ideas. A man named Dari Jubanik.
Okay.
He issued a series of broadsheets, which are kind of like newspapers, called On Government.
Oh, no.
And yeah. Basically, these broadsheets kind of, they're provinces under a king, right?
Yep.
And it called into question, if you have the principle of divine right, I am the king because I am divinely chosen by God.
Oh my gosh, are we questioning divine right now?
Yeah, so we're kind of questioning divine right because obviously you're not being pushed by God, you're being controlled by devils.
Right.
So he kind of uses these broadsheets to kind of like undermine the whole idea of like, wait, why are we pledging fealty to a queen, in this case Queen Abigail, when she just gets all of her power by devils? So
yeah, that seems like a very valid piece of political discourse.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, like good rebuttal. That would blow up on Twitter nowadays.
That would absolutely blow up I'm sure it would.
So, this kind of simmers for a while. And like I said, we have 20 some years for it to kind of, from when Cheliax and the devils take over to when Galt kind of hits its breaking point.
And it feels like they're just like slowly tightening down the screws.
Yeah. So things are going kind of bad. You hear the stories of House Thrun's cruelty. So these broadsheets are kind of causing some discontent.
Right. So
another philosopher, who's a half-elf, Hossetter, only one name because all great philosophers only have one name.
Of course.
So he took that kind of feeling and the resentment even further and released Imperial Betrayal.
So we're not even trying to hide it now.
Yeah, no, at this point, it urged common folk to take up arms for their ideals.
Yep, I love it.
This idea spread like wildfire.
I love it.
Between, like I said, the tales of the cruelty they had, we need to stand up for our ideals because Galt, again, was kind of the place to be for free thinking. Yeah. So they're like, we're going to stand up to this. So it was made a nice, neat powder keg that was ready to blow at any given point. Yeah, so soon dissent turned to rebellion turned to full revolt, and in 4667 AR, they declared independence.
Let's go.
So they started a revolt, tens of thousands of Galtans. They answered the call for imperial betrayal that Hossetter made, and they formed up mobs and basically ran through the Chelish nobles.
Let's go.
So we're at full, the equivalent, full French Revolution, starting the kind of reign of terror.
Right. We're going to go, anyone who might even be remotely associated with a noble is on the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's at this point that Hossetter and Jubanik, and along with a couple other heroes of the people, they formed the Revolutionary Council. Yes.
Oh.
So, the Revolutionary Council.
Never call something a Revolutionary Council.
Call it there. This is the new government. Remember in the first episode when I talked about the guillotines that steal your soul?
Yep.
Known all around Galt.
Yes.
This, at this point, is where they make their appearance. Because one of the first acts of the Revolutionary Council was to commission these final blades.
So what was that meeting like? Like, the 10 people are, like, around a table, and it's like, yo, I know we have these issues with these nobles, but I'm worried about them coming back to life again?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, they didn't start out with the idea of, like, hey, let's just ruin people's souls by keeping them.
I was going to say, okay.
Yeah. So you have citizen Marjorie Santrain, who is the architect of the guillotines.
Uh-huh.
And her reasoning behind them were not super evil. So she's quoted as saying, they will bring a swift and humane end, offering no escape through the magics of resurrection.
There it is, yep.
And furthermore, keeping even the vilest Galtan's soul from falling into the clutches of a Chelish devil.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, because devils, like, eat souls.
They eat souls. They, like, they contract with souls. So they're in their minds, they're like, okay, our leaders follow devils. If we kill people, that's just giving them more power.
Yeah, okay.
So their thought was, yeah, let's just have this thing steal the souls. And obviously only the people who are going to deserve it are going to be in the final blades, clearly.
We would never use a weapon on someone undeserving.
Yeah. So it made sense to be like, yeah, let's keep their souls from being resurrected and let's keep their souls out of these filthy devils' hands.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, maybe not an evil pitch.
Yeah, not a great pitch. You're still making something that murders people. But like, you're like, in terms of quick to death, like guillotines are pretty efficient.
Also, like, you're a revolutionary council. Like, you're gonna crack a couple eggs.
Yeah. You're not gonna get out of here with no bloodshed.
Right. Okay.
Of course not. So, again, while they had good intentions for the Revolutionary Council, soon what they had kind of spiraled out of control.
Who could have predicted? The people's, originally Galt has a love of life, and that soon turned into a thirst for blood. Anyone who criticized the council were called Chelish sympathizers. Again, 20 minutes ago, we were like, no one who deserves it will end up in these blades. And then anybody's like, I don't think this is right. They're like, you devil worshiper. Maybe we should have French toast for breakfast. You Chelish sympathizer.
How dare you like the French toast? Yeah. Relatively quickly, like all the leaders kind of, at the beginning they had the United Front. Like, we're the Revolutionary Council. Right. We're saving Galt. Very quickly it turned to infighting and paranoia. And now everyone's kind of worried. Outside people are trying to challenge the leaders and, become the new leaders. So this Revolutionary Council lasts 5 years. It makes it a whole 5 years, which,
that's more than a presidential term, so
that's true.
It's not horrible.
Yeah. If at the end of a presidential term, the previous leader got its head cut off, that's what happened here.
Okay.
5 years after, Hossiter was executed in his hometown, and Jubanik fled. He's like, oh no. And he fled to Andoran. And with the two kind of moral compasses of the revolution gone or dead, things kind of spiraled.
Yeah, so you don't have Andoran, or you don't have Aridin.
Yeah.
You don't have your leaders.
No.
Oh boy.
Yeah, things kind of spiral. With that, it's been 50 years, and how things have kind of come over the 50 years.
50 years?
Yeah, things happened.
Oh no.
So let's talk a little bit about how Galt worked over the course of that 50 years.
Oh,
because with any sort of revolution, there's not a good through line of story of what's happening, right?
Right. It's all very chaotic.
Everything's chaos. So we're going to talk about the different arms of the government.
Okay.
What's left of it. We just talked about the Revolutionary Council.
Yep.
This changes every few years. No one really makes it that long. Over a dozen councils have been put in power since the initial revolution. And they don't go into, like, timelines. Things get lost to history. Some show up and then just immediately die.
Right.
But they kind of call out a few notable ones.
Right.
Throughout.
Right.
Over the decades, we had there's one called the Kalian Council. So they're not all Revolutionary Council. They all kind of have their own names.
Well, you got to spin it somehow.
You got to spin it.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not the same people.
We're not the same people.
Yeah.
This one was run by Durgan Rain.
That's a sweet name.
Right? And he believed that absolute change was the only path to prosperity. No. Instead of, like, calming down the, mob or whatever, he decided we're going to change the alphabet of the common language and change the names of the days of the week.
What?
Yeah, because we need to change everything to be prosperous.
As my first act, we no longer use the alphabet.
Yes, we use a different alphabet. Makes perfect sense. He did that, and then he also declared martial law and mandatory conscription. Because why not? If you don't have an alphabet, you might as well have
You have to enforce those alphabet restrictions. That makes sense. Yeah. That actually makes more sense than the changing the alphabet part.
That's fair. So ironically, he got ousted by his newly trained soldiers.
Who could have predicted?
And that, went up, went down, they're dead.
I need my orders written on my desk. Wrong alphabet!
One of the other ones they talked about was the Common Council. This council believed that anybody with a political background was unqualified to be on the council.
Sure.
Instead, they brought farmers and beggars onto the council.
Sure.
It doesn't say how it ended, but I imagine it didn't last long.
Well, there's an enormous depth of knowledge to beggars running your government.
Yeah, your government. in a government that's notably bloodthirsty. So.
Sure. Yeah.
None of these have timelines. Later, we talk about one that's been over for a decade, so nothing more than 10 years.
I can't imagine the Common Council lasted more than 2 weeks. They got to the table all right, so who here knows how to balance books? None of us know how to count money?
Crap.
Show of hands, who can read? Okay, great.
Perfect. So, another one that came through was the Eye of Law, which was a horrendous council led by a witch who was the head of a coven. So a hag coven at one point ruled over Galt.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually awesome.
I imagine, if you've watched the show Parks and Rec, when in their town in the 70s they get taken over by a cult. This is what I imagine, Halesworp.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Again, not sure how long that one lasted. One of the other ones that they have a little bit more details is the Galt Creed Pact.
Galt Creed? That's a good band name.
Right? The Galt Creed Pact. This council disdained the Final Blades. They did not like them as punishment. So instead, they built secret prisons.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Because why would you rather kill your enemies and instead just prison them in a place that no one knows where to find them? They called these prisons the Galt Creed, but then everyone started calling them the Dread Dungeons because, prisoners
That's
of war.
That's also a sweet band name, though.
Right? A lot of great band names come out of Galt, and then they all die. So
they're called the Dread Dungeons.
The Dread Dungeons, like every other council, doesn't last long. The leaders of that regime were sent to the Final Blades, just like everyone before them, except they never found the prison. So,
oh, no.
And they interrogated the leader. He wouldn't tell. They tortured him. And it turns out he was an imposter. But the real one, fled to the dungeons, and no one's ever been able to see him.
So there's a secret prison dungeon somewhere in Galt.
Somewhere in Galt. Or out of Galt. Or
out of Galt. Oh, that's true. It could not be in Galt.
And presumably the leader of this revolutionary council is just chilling with, I guess, a bunch of prisoners. I don't know. They don't have any more detail.
We should get a foreign correspondent for the tabletop travel guide to go find the Dread Dungeon.
If you're looking for a job, we will hire you at no amount of money to be our foreign correspondent of our fake exploration podcast. The second most recent leader of the council was Corin Goss. He led the council for about over a decade.
Wow.
So kind of decent amount of time by revolution standards. And he was very talented at redirecting the mob's rage. His tactic was to blame all of the neighboring countries. So
okay, sure.
It's not our fault. It's the fact that Andran has resources. Why should they have resources when we have nothing? And so he just redirected the anger at everybody else, which really kind of made the neighboring countries kind of nervous.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there's no way to piss off your neighbors than to blame them for everything.
Yeah. He did that for a while. He was pretty charismatic, so, that worked for a while. But like every other one, he eventually got brought down.
Sure.
That brings us to our current leader, Camilla Dranach.
Camilla Dranach.
She's a populist leader who believes blaming others just made things worse for Galt.
So far, reasonable political platform.
Yeah. She's currently trying to root out rogue elements and influences within Galt that might be destabilizing.
Okay.
Which seems pretty solid.
Okay.
Some people accuse that of just her gaslighting and keeping the mob away from her, which, I
mean, it can probably still be a little bit of that, but that's still a very reasonable path forward. Okay.
TBD. That's the Revolutionary Council.
That's the executive branch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Executive branch. Now you have the Senate. So the Senate predated the revolution. It was, so it was around and had 300 dignitaries from all over Galt and to represent the different peoples. So they've been around pre-murdery revolution.
Okay.
And they used to have an election every 8 years, re-pick people, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been on hold since the revolution started. So about 50 years, it's just been kind of hanging out. And also, over the course of those years, their numbers have whittled due to Final Blade occurrences.
Oh, so it's the same 300, so less now. Oh.
Yeah, so they've never been able to re-vote, so it's been the same 300 this whole time.
Oh.
And by same 300, it's whittled down to about 100 over the years. Because piss off the wrong person and you're going to get your head cut off.
Right.
So they have these 100 senators that meet monthly, and it's kind of ceremonial, but they still have power because they've been around the whole time.
Sure.
So, like, they kind of know the ins and outs of just government.
It's like just inertia.
Yeah. So the governors who come in from the Revolutionary Council can't put their own people in to the Senate because they don't have any elections. So it's kind of that power, like an odd way of checks and balances of like, they can't pad the numbers because people keep killing everybody else.
Sure.
So they have like, it's kind of ceremonial power, but in a weird way, it kind of checks the council.
Yeah.
And so like having people from the Senate on your side only helps your case with the mob.
Sure. Well, it sounds like the only so far we've talked like body of longevity that remains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's kind of the Senate. They're, again, kind of purely ceremonial. Having connections to them is good, but like they're not passing laws and doing whatever. They're just kind of trying not to die.
Right.
That brings us to I would say our last arm and the most consistent.
So this is our judicial branch, sort of?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
So these are the Grey Gardeners.
And they're a bunch of gardeners, right?
Yeah. Purely gardening. No, so these are the owners and the maintainers of the final blades.
Ah.
They are also the justices and executioners of anybody who the mob deems an enemy of Galt.
So, yeah, actually sort of a judicial branch.
Yeah. They are beloved by the mob because they have the things that kill the people, but they are definitely not good guys or Robin Hood style people.
Right.
You know, what keeps them in power is they are fully anonymous. So every Grey Gardener wears a mask. No one knows the identity of who they are, so they can't be attacked. On the flip side, it makes it very, kind of increases the Galton paranoia because your neighbor or friend or spouse could be a Grey Gardener and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
So
why is Bob down in the basement working every night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and if you again say the wrong thing about the revolution or do whatever, you might get your head cut off.
Right.
So
right.
It kind of just feeds on the paranoia and the fear that everybody has, knowing that like anybody you know could be a Grey Gardener who has the very real ability to murder you.
What a not stressful way to live life.
Right. They also have been asked several times by the different councils to unmask, to join the councils, to pay taxes, stuff like that.
Wait, do they not pay taxes?
I don't think so. They kind of do their own thing, They've basically said, no, like, our power is in our anonymity, and you guys are going to be dead in, like, 2 minutes anyway. So, we'll wait them out.
Yeah. Game respects game, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just kind of like, they're doing their thing. They're based in a different city than the capital, and that city is... The mobs don't go there, but also people are way more paranoid there, so it's like safe, but in a kind of everything is fine, in a kind of paranoid way. So you don't have to deal with mobs; you have to deal with possibly, being labeled a traitor.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So the Grey Gardeners have been here basically from the beginning, and their power structure really hasn't changed. They have the anonymity. They have like all the kind of guards and warriors. They have the final blades. The mobs aren't coming after them.
Right.
Because they're the ones kind of, anytime the Revolutionary Council, somebody's got to cut off their heads, and it's Grey Gardeners.
Sure. So they're a little bit of like the hand behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're the hand. So where are we at now? We've kind of talked up to the Revolution.
Right.
And we're kind of in this state of flux where, like I said, the newest council leader, Camellia, is attempting to undo all the external hate and trying to stabilize that way. The Gardeners are still doing their Gardener thing, having, recently executed the most recent Revolutionary Council. But things kind of might be changing. There's a 2nd edition adventure. So remember, we're in Pathfinder 2nd edition at the moment.
Yep.
And it's called Night of the Grey Death. So we are not going to spoil it here, because if you want to play it, go play it. We will have a bonus spoiler episode.
Yes.
The spoiler travel guide.
Yes.
Where we talk about events of that adventure because it has kind of large ramifications on Galt as a whole.
Right. It's relevant to like our perception of the nation.
Yeah.
But we don't want to spoil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But without going into spoiler, we might be at the end of the death spiral of Revolution.
Okay.
It seems like there might be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And Galt is kind of at a crossroads. Do they continue down the spiteful petty for petty murder, or do they grow from here? So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, there's not too much history. Like I said before, you have 50 years of chaos, and now things might change.
Yeah, and when 50 years is a lot, and it's bad, but it's not. It doesn't feel like Galt is truly defined historically by the chaos.
Yeah, they could, definitely come back. From here.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of all I got for Galt. It's short, sweet, and bloody.
Short, sweet, and bloody. Oof. Yeah, no, that was interesting. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Because Galt, like we talked a little bit about like perceptions previously. Like, yeah, I felt like Galt was just revolution, but there's a little bit more there.
There's a little bit of nuance. Not a lot of nuance,
but
a little bit of nuance.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, from there, I think we'll take a little break, Tyler. We'll talk about some characters and campaigns, and then we'll get a final rating.
That sounds good.
All right.
Okay,
we'll
be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing great. Doing great.
Not too bloody right now?
Oh, not too bloody at the moment. I'm interested to see where you go from here.
Yes. So my campaign setup, I kind of went for a little bit of like Secret Service-y.
Okay.
With some additional, little bit of cloak and dagger, but at the same time, there's lots of opportunity for like getting out there, getting involved with the mobs, and getting your hands dirty in Galt.
Yeah, perfect.
So the campaign starts. I didn't explicitly pick like big bad guy names or dates or anything, but I liked the idea that you talked before about pointing the finger at the outside influence.
Okay.
So name your pick. Whatever outside influence you want to pick is the big bad. And they are, in fact, influencing events inside of Galt. And the players are going to be attached to like a handler or a lieutenant or somebody who works for the government who says, okay, I need you to investigate this outside influence. Okay. And then, of course, like when they're supposed to meet that handler the next day, the handler's dead.
Okay, cool.
And the kickoff for the campaign then is, well, the government, the players were the last people to talk to the government, or talk to the handler rather.
Oh.
So the players are accused of the murder, and they have to like work to make their own names and like find their own innocence.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the what part of the government did you say the handler is from?
The handler itself, I don't think it mattered a ton.
Okay.
Like it could even be a Grey Gardener, like just somebody who's doing a little bit of backroom negotiation and like figuring out that kind of thing. But then like specifically, I think the Senate steps in and is like, oh my gosh, you killed this government agent. You're in trouble. We're going to give you 2 weeks to redeem your names or else we put you to the blade.
Perfect.
And from there, it's a wacky adventure. I used a node setup for the campaign, so I think we'll post this on the website or somewhere. But as you kind of go through the progression, you start to figure out what these outside influences are. You maybe follow somebody. You eventually find like the person who committed the murder, but then that murder themselves is, of course, like a front for the big bad evil guy.
Yeah.
And it's just got a lot of room to snake your way through Galt and all the revolutionary fun that's occurring there.
I kind of like that. Because you kind of deal with everybody while avoiding the thing that everybody's trying to avoid.
Yes.
Which I think is a great final worry of, oh no, like we're going to die by the blade if we don't figure this out. And
one of the important parts that I have notes written in here is all throughout the campaign as the GM, you have to talk about all of like the brochures and the documents and like the revolutionary press going on in the streets.
Ooh, okay.
With the expectation that like I envisioned this really cool like middle, like the crescendo of the story arcs of like slow like rising action and then the first crescendo and then back down in the second final crescendo. That first crescendo would be like finding the printing presses and like the location where all of this revolutionary literature is being pumped out. And you have this cool possibility of like a fight through a printing room.
Nice.
And like all the different technology and stuff that might happen in Galtian revolutionary press.
Okay. Nice. That's super cool.
It's a wild but condensed adventure was kind of what I had envisioned.
I like that. Yeah, you kind of get you get a little bit of intrigue, you get probably a lot of chaos. I imagine, you know, there's a lot of running through the streets, maybe avoiding some mobs, you know.
Yep. Oh yeah. You're like, and you're always, someone's always at your back, right? The beginning pitch of the player characters are on the hook for the murder if they don't figure this out is supposed to be that constant, like, dark cloud over their backs of like, we can't like rest for a month and figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to go and try to figure this out.
Okay, nice. I like that. That's really cool.
So then how are you going to get a character in here?
Dude. Okay. So, my character. This is going to be a hard one. No, we'll make it work. So, my character, I used your generator.
Sure.
And I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do. And then I got to the ancestry, and I rolled it, and it was rare. And I thought, crap.
Right.
This is not... Okay, I'll make this work. So, today, my character is Candace Volso.
Candace Volso.
He is a swashbuckler android.
A swashbuckler android. I love it.
Yeah. We find Candace. He was he came from Numeria, as most androids do. And Numeria is like 2 countries north of Galt.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, we'll get there. He's part of a nomadic tribe of androids. They settle in the River Kingdoms, which is the direct north country of Galt.
Yes.
Probably on the northern border around Galt.
Yes.
One of the things I learned about androids, which is kind of cool, they, at the end of their life cycle, instead of humans or any other race that just die, they like kind of get to the end. Their androids are basically a soul in a organic soul in a synthetic body.
Okay.
So at the end of their life, they just kind of willingly give up their soul to the boneyard, which is the, where Pharasma, the deity we talked about, judges all souls. So they give up their soul and their body just kind of shuts down and goes into hibernation. Huh. And then a few weeks later, a new soul comes in the body.
Oh.
It is called renewal. So they're kind of reborn.
Okay.
And this is actually very celebrated in android situations. Kind of like giving birth.
Okay.
Or like kind of in that kind of way. It's like a fully new soul or like fully new body.
Starting from scratch.
Yeah. Candace was at the end of his life. He gave up his body, or he gave up his soul. His body was protected. And for whatever reason, his tribe had to leave. And they couldn't bring his body with them. So that's when his, we'll say father figure, Cordanus Volso. Yeah. So Candace Volso is not his original name. But Cordanus Volso from Galt found his body at the time of renewal.
Perfect.
So he basically sees this man, and he's an impersonator android, so he looks human, basically. He can blend in. So he sees this man who looks like he just lost his memory and has, he's like, oh, this guy doesn't know who he is, doesn't know what's happening, like something happened to him, I gotta take care of him.
Oh, what a nice person.
Yeah, sure. So, perfect. So he takes him back to Galt. And one of the problems about Galt is that they are very suspicious of outsiders.
Right.
Hella suspicious of outsiders. What he does, Cordanus says, this is my brother, Candace.
Okay.
This is my brother, Candace Volso. He is from town, or from a different country. He's visiting.
Okay,
so,
which is reasonable.
Yeah. So basically, try to like hide the fact that this guy, he found him on the border and was hella suspicious. He soon realizes that Candace is not just an amnesiac. He might not fully understand what an android is, but he knows something's weird about this guy.
Yeah, not a human who just can't remember.
But he knows that he has a lot of influence in this android's like learning.
Okay.
He kind of takes him in as a pseudo son and teaches him about the world. Throughout this time, he's told about the heroics of the Grey Gardeners.
Oh no.
And how they're the protectors of the people, and they keep the corrupt government from oppressing the people, et cetera, et cetera. So he's learning about these heroes, and he starts to aspire to be...
heroes of the revolution.
The heroes of the revolution, the Grey Gardeners. So, spoiler, turns out Cordanus is a Grey Gardener.
Right.
To the surprise of no one. And he's kind of a zealot for the Gardeners. He starts training Candace, and it's basically like, you are going to be a Grey Gardener, because this kid, he's basically a fully formed person, is strong as hell.
Right.
And so he's like, you're going to be a great gardener.
You're going to be the best Grey Gardener.
And he's very perceptive. He has like alert systems that make him easier to spot people and stuff. Just because he's an android, so he's like perfect Grey Gardener. He can tell when people are lying. He can do all this stuff.
Right.
So he, basically gets groomed to be a Grey Gardener himself. And so he becomes a very good, like he joins the ranks. He becomes a braggart swashbuckler, which, as a side note, swashbucklers basically do stuff to get panache, to get more damage, than to use that, panache to deal more damage.
Yeah.
And so braggart swashbucklers are great when demoralizing foes.
Okay.
So instead of But instead of doing like taunting or boasting or whatever, Candace is all about like intimidating the crap out of people just with his overwhelming presence.
Right. Oh, yes.
He kind of becomes an inadvertent zealot, thinking he's a hero of Galt.
He sounds like a swashbuckling Grey Gardener, like Jack Sparrow almost.
Yeah. The thing he becomes, androids are very known for being curious and loving learning and being very logical. Mm-hmm. As he realizes, like, oh, this Galt system of government makes no sense. Like, the Gardeners don't make sense, the Senate makes no sense, the Council makes no sense. Like, this is illogical, and this could be a better system.
Right.
So, at this point, he doesn't have, like, an emotional awakening of, like, we should probably not be murdering all those people. He's like, this is wildly inefficient, and it needs to be better. I think it's at this point that I would kind of step into the character.
Yeah.
To see where he goes from does he go down the Grey Gardener route? Like, we need to suppress more people to get them, we need to hero the people by murdering a lot of them? Or, like, do we need to change? To kind of fit into your campaign, the interesting thing about the Grey Gardener archetype is it's kind of vigilante. Right. So there's an archetype that lets you have two different kind of personalities. And so the Grey Gardeners, he's that. But he also is Candace Valso. Right. And I think it would be cool if, like, his social personality, joined up with maybe a party or something who also were like, things need to change. Right. And they might be like, we need to save Galt. And he might be like, Galt needs a better system of government. I don't care what it is. Like, right. This is wildly inefficient. I don't like inefficiencies. Right. I think if he's part of this party who then gets, like, accused of murdering somebody, he's like, crap.
Yeah,
like,
no, this is perfect.
Yeah, he's like, I am the executioner, but I can't tell anybody that I'm the executioner. Or he's not even panicked. He's just kind of like, this is a problem that we have to solve. Right. He might be going through all this stuff, knowing that, like, oh yeah, the Grey Gardeners are, like, the bad guys. But he's like, I don't know, they seem like they might have good ideas. I'm going to follow this through. And if they don't have a great idea, I'm just going to kill them at the end anyway.
Yeah, that's like a perfect scenario of like, look, I swear I didn't kill that guy. Don't ask me about anyone else I may have killed. Like,
don't ask anything else. Yeah, I imagine it's just kind of like this seems like maybe they might have logical ideas. Let's go with this for a time. And if it doesn't work out, I will kill them and find another group.
That's perfect. Even like there's certainly there's like this side of me that wants him, whenever he sees like propaganda against the Grey Gardeners or like things that he doesn't like about it, even though he's still skeptical on the system, he like shoves his way in and is like, look, the Grey Gardeners aren't perfect, but they are okay.
Yeah, they are fine.
They are aggressively fine.
Yeah, I imagine he's like, I don't think he would hate the Grey Gardeners or anything because he's still kind of a zealot, but he's just like, Grey Gardeners, could they be more efficient? Yes. Could they be better at killing? Maybe. Like,
oh, that's so perfect. Even like Cordanis, especially if the Senate is the group like accusing the party of murder, if you could have Cordanis also be a senator, and like make him also play the dual side of like, well, my governmental like Grey Gardener side says you are accused of murder. I need to kill you, my own son, brother thing. But then like the human side of, well, I kind of sort of raised him though.
Yeah, he's kind of my son, and he's a pretty good Grey Gardener. So
even that side, like, well, I can't kill him because he is my chosen Grey Gardener like protege. Yeah, and I need to maneuver things to protect other Grey Gardeners.
Yeah, what would be really funny is if the other players didn't know he was a Grey Gardener.
Oh, you 100%.
So
would
like
keep
the
that
DM
secret.
knows, the effort player's like, man, he's kind of into the Grey Gardeners. Why is that?
Even like as the GM, I would drop like the occasional hint of like, if you got a really high or like a crit success on a perception check, like people are giving you like signs, like the Grey Gardener like wave or something. Yeah. Just, people seem to wave at him a bunch. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Kind of odd. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
I like that. Nice.
That's perfect. I think that's a perfect mixture for character and campaign.
Yeah.
Nice.
Man, we're very good at, making it work.
Luckily, the way the whole thing is set up, that there's lots of opportunities, but at the same time, it's easy to weave those opportunities together. Yeah. So then all that being said, Tyler, on a scale of 1 to 5 executions, 1 to 5...
I think beheadings?
Beheadings? 1 to 5 beheadings might work.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5 beheadings, if I could give this a 0, I would give this a 0 out of 5 beheadings. I do not want to be in Galt.
No.
They are very suspicious of outsiders. The odds of us getting murdered are pretty high.
Super high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree that if we're not allowed to give it a 0, definitely give it like the bottom of the barrel, 1 out of 5 stars. Yeah. That is not a place where I would ever want to spend a romantic weekend or something.
Nope. And, even if you're one of those people that's like, I want to join the mob and see how that's like as an outsider, you might die.
Are there people that are like, dude, I want to travel to this country so that I can join an angry mob? Is that like a travel plan?
There's gotta be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Horrible plan.
Yeah.
Horrible idea.
But you can do that.
So 0 to 1 out of 5 beheadings.
0 to 1 out of 5 beheadings for Galt. As a tabletop travel guide official rating, don't go there for vacation.
Yeah, we agree. Okay. All right, yeah. So with that, we'll get the campaign and the character posted on the website.
Perfect.
We have a new website, right?
Yeah. It is tabletoptravelguide.com. Any art or maps or anything we talk about in the episode, we'll try to post those there so we can check them out. If you want to email us, you got any feedback or anything, we have a Gmail. I believe it's tabletoptravelguidepodcast
at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Yeah. We always love to hear anything you got for us. If you like the episode, if you have any suggestions for, good ratings or characters or anything, yeah, let us know.
Or even if you want to send us your own rankings.
Yeah.
I'd love to see how other people evaluate the nations of Aveston and Gironde and everybody.
Yeah. Please, as we go through, send us your own ratings to make sure our tabletop travel guide rating system is as
oh my gosh. Can we do like a Yelp reviews segment where like every once in a while we can like read the Yelp reviews of other people?
Yeah.
Oh, let's do that.
We'll do that. Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks again for listening, and until next time, safe travels.
Safe travels.